Welcome in Fundamentals of Physics devoted to waves and optics. This is the first lecture. It is devoted to oscillations because this is in fact an introduction to waves. So first of all, we are going to describe the oscillations of the spring block system. We will discuss the simple harmonic motion, so abbreviated SHM. We will see some examples of mechanical simple harmonic motions. We will see the connection between oscillations and a uniform circular motion. We will discuss the equation used to describe simple harmonic motion, which is this one. This is a general equation. So it has an amplitude and a phase. So we are going to describe all these. Discuss the importance of simple harmonic motions. And we will finish with a short description of the electromagnetic oscillations. So let's discuss the force due to a spring. So this is called the Hooke's law. So it's a so-called restoring force because it tends to bring back the system to its equilibrium position. So usually it is written as F equal minus Kx delta x, and sometimes just minus Kx. So be careful still with this expression because forces are vectors. So we need to be careful sometimes. So the proper way to do that is to define an axis like this and with an origin. So usually a good choice is the natural length of the spring. So in that case you can indeed use F equal minus Kx because x will be on the delta x in this case, the displacement compared to equilibrium. If you had put your x equals 0 at another position, you could not just use minus Kx. Okay. Alright, so K of course is the spring constant. It's a measure of the stiffness of the spring, and in fact it is a property of that spring. Alright, so doing things correctly, we use vectors and an axis. And in this case, our force is written like that. So the force at position x is minus k, x minus x0. So the force for the position for which f equals 0. So the natural position, in fact. And with multiplied by a unit vector, which gives you the direction of your force. Alright, so indeed if x, a normal good choice is to use x0 equals 0, like in this case. So in this case you indeed have SF equal minus kx. But normally this is a displacement, it is a delta x, okay, not just a position. Alright, so let's see these two different situations. First, this one, x is positive here. So using this equation we can find the force. So and let's say x0 equals 0. So we have f equal minus kx and ux. So the magnitude will be minus kx, and it is negative because x is positive. Okay, so along this vector, so this vector points of course to the right side, like x, like the axis. So this sign gives you that the force will be to the left. Okay. Okay, so let's look now at this position. So we have pushed the spring. So now x is negative compared to the origin here. Alright, so using this we have minus kx ux also, but in this case, because x is negative, minus kx will be positive. Okay, minus kx is positive, therefore fs is towards the right. Okay, so just be careful about that. Sometimes using just minus kx will produce some mistakes. Alright, so let's look at what happens to a mass spring system. Let's say our system is now in the situation on top, and this one. So x equals 0 is here, so it corresponds to the when the system is at rest. And now it is at the mass is at x equal minus a, and the speed is 0. So in this case we have a net force to the right. Okay, so F equal minus k a. So in that case, if we take a positive axis from left to right, we would have the force is equal to Ka in magnitude. Alright, so the block will move to the right. So at some point it will reach the position where the system is in equilibrium. So here there is no force now. But the velocity, the speed is non-zero, and we will see that it is at its maximum. In fact, here. So due to Newton's third law, the inertia, this system will continue to move, even though there is no force on it. It will continue to move to the right. So that is why it is continuing. It has inertia. Alright, so it will go until x equal a and stop there. So the force will be maximum at this point in magnitude, and it will therefore go back to the left. It will, at some point, it will be back to x equals 0. Again, there is no force there, and the speed is at its maximum. And again, because of Newton's third law of inertia, the system will continue to move in the same way. So the mass will continue to move to the left. And we are back here, so x equals minus a. So this is exactly the same state as this one, so state A. Okay, so whenever we come back to exactly the same state, we have a periodic motion, because again we will go for state B, C, D, etc. So we have a periodic motion. So we can express a periodic motion with a period t. So here the period is in time. So x of t equals x of t plus the period in time. So this is the unit seconds in the Système International. We can define a frequency in hertz. So frequency is 1 over t, so it is in per second and also called hertz. And we have also an amplitude. We have to define an amplitude, so the maximum displacement compared to the equilibrium. So this is in meter of the oscillation. So let's make an experiment, so a kind of animation experiment here. So I'm going to run it. Okay, so this is a video I took from YouTube, so this is the link. Okay, the link is here, and it's from the physicsanimation.com. So here you have an oscillator, so this thing is oscillating, spring mass system. And it has a pen, so it just write on a piece of paper that is moving at constant speed. So this is in fact, so horizontally on the paper it is time. Okay, and this is what, so you get the trajectory as a function of time. So it looks like a nice sine or cosine function. Okay, so let's find out what kind of, so this is in fact x over as a function of time, this curve. So let's find out what the equation actually of this curve. Alright, so here is represented the different stages of the oscillation. So indeed what we are interested in is the position of the mass. So we can see that it looks like it is like a cosine or a sine function. So what is it? So we need the equation of the motion. And how we find that? So we are in mechanics. We have some tools in mechanics which are Newton's laws, conservation laws. So we can use these to find out x of t for this oscillator. So let's do it first using Newton's law. So let's write Newton's law. It's F equal ma. So ma is just m and second derivative of x, because we only have x as a variable. So the force is minus kx. So x is algebraic, so we can write minus k delta x, and delta x is x in this case. So this is it. We can rewrite it like that. And this is our equation of motion. This is for any kind of oscillator. Okay, so it's a universal equation working for any kind of simple oscillator. So it is defined. You see that the only parameter in this equation is omega squared. X is what is changing over time, and the only parameter, so only property that can be seen in this equation is omega squared. Therefore, omega is a fundamental property of the oscillator. Okay, and this works in for any oscillator, and even in quantum mechanics, for example. There are oscillators in quantum mechanics. They are a very important part of quantum mechanics, and they do have also a fundamental angular frequency. Okay, angular frequency. So in this particular case, you see that omega, so it is this. It is the square root of k divided by m. And indeed, k and m are properties of that system. K is a property of the spring, and the mass is a property of the block. Let's now do it with using conservation of energy. So here I suppose that you know that the energy of a spring is given by half of kx delta x squared. Okay, this is an introduction to waves, so you are supposed to have had already a lecture on oscillations. So you know that the potential energy stored in a spring is half of k delta x squared. So in this case, the first case here, delta x is minus a, so your energy here will be just given by this, because the speed is 0, so you don't have any kinetic energy. So this is our energy of the entire system in this state. So when the mass is back to equilibrium position, we do not have any potential energy because x equals 0, delta x equals 0, and but we have a large speed, therefore we have some kinetic energy expressed as half of mv squared. So this is the energy of all the energy of the system in this state. When it is at the extreme, at x equal a, we again have only potential energy, and it is equal to kx squared. Alright, so let's look at an arbitrary position x here. So we have the energy is equal to energy in the spring and the kinetic energy of the mass of the block. So this is a half of kx squared plus half mv squared, and this is a constant. Okay, the energy is constant, so this expression is a constant, and that constant can be expressed as this, either of these two. So when you have problems to solve, sometimes they will give you a. So if they give you a and k, you know that constant. Or if they give you the maximum speed and the mass, etc. Alright, so you know this expression. This can be useful in itself, because in some problems they may give you the amplitude and k and m, but not and they will ask what is the maximum velocity. Okay, so with this you can solve this. Alright, so is this useful? Can you solve this easily? Not really, especially if you do not know this, because at first you just solve the equation, you don't know Vmax, you don't know A, so you just have half kx squared plus half mv squared equal constant, so it's not very useful. So what we do when we have a constant, we can take the derivative, because the derivative of a constant will be 0, and this will simplify the equation. So if we do that, dA dt equals 0, we get, so you take the derivative of that, so the 2 will cancel with that one, you have kx and the derivative of x, plus, so again the 2 will disappear with this one, you have m, dx dt, and the derivative of dx dt, which is the acceleration, equals 0. So this you can rewrite it like this, which is exactly the same equation we got before with when we applied Newton's second law. Alright, so let's now look at physically what are the necessary conditions for oscillation. So we've seen that you need a force, a restoring force. You need a force that will bring back the system to its equilibrium position. Right. So this is a restoring force is necessary. So what else is necessary? So we are going to discuss this next. So indeed here you see that the restoring force is important. If it is to the left compared to your equilibrium position, a force must bring it back to that equilibrium position. If it is to the right, and the force should also bring it back to the equilibrium position. So the forces change sign. This is a restoring force. So let's do a kind of thought experiment. Let's take a massless spring. So a spring which has no mass. We always say in problems in our textbook, we take a massless spring. So what does it mean? Okay, so this is our massless spring at equilibrium, x equals 0. We stretch it like this, we apply a force. So by doing this, normally we store energy in the spring. And that energy is in the form half of kx squared. It's potential energy stored in the spring. So let's say we release the spring. from this point. If we look at the energy, we have energy of the spring plus kinetic energy of the spring. So you can just write it. It's half of kx squared here plus half of mv squared. Okay, but we don't have any mass. So this term cancels. So we get only half of kx squared. So this is an odd situation. Because if x changes, if there is a force, because the force is a kx minus kx to the left, so the x is expected to change here. So it means that the energy is not conserved. So we reach a kind of nonsense here, and in fact, this is due to the simple fact that a massless spring is nonsense. Okay, so what the mass here is already necessary to sustain the oscillation. So mass is inertia. So inertia is necessary to sustain the oscillation. For example, when you have your spring at x equals 0 with the mass, the block at x equals 0, the motion continues because of Newton's third law of inertia. Okay, so inertia is another important property for the system. So in fact, to make things simple, we consider a system of a massless spring plus a block. So we neglect the mass of the spring compared to that of the block. Okay, so because so this is very simple to work with, massless spring plus block. Of course, we could solve the equation with a spring which has some mass, but it's very complicated, and we don't need that to understand the physics. So we only consider a so-called massless spring plus a block. All right, so we've seen that the conditions were a restoring force and we need inertia. In particular, at x equals 0, there is no net force, so the motion will continue because of inertia. So, and these two important physical phenomena actually show up in the fundamental frequency omega, k square root of k divided by m. So m is the inertia. You know that, I suppose now. Inertia in classical mechanics is a mass, and k is in the restoring force, the F equal minus kx. So k is the parameter corresponding to the restoring force, which is sometimes called the springiness. Okay, so this will be a universal characteristic of omega. Omega will be always a square root of something representing the restoring force divided by something representing the inertia of the system. All right. So omega depends only on these fundamental properties and not on other, for example, initial conditions like position, velocity. All right, so we have this equation. Let's find the solutions. So this is a second order differential equation. Therefore, there is a second derivative here. Therefore, we will need two constants of integration. So for example, okay, x, xm, and phi. And these are given by boundary conditions. This is always the case for a differential equation. So in this case, because x is a function of time, it will be given by some condition at some given time, and usually we look at initial conditions. Alright, so what is a typical solution for that? So mathematicians have been working on that. This is the solution that we usually take in physics. But your mathematician would probably not choose this one. He would choose this one. He would choose a sum of a cosine and plus a sine. Okay, but in physics these are equivalents. These three are equivalents, and in physics we prefer taking this one with just one function and an additional parameter here. In each case you have two parameters. So we have xm, the amplitude, and this is a phase, in fact, or here a and b, two amplitudes. Here you can write, it is the same as this one, you just explicit the fact that phi here is a kind of omega t. Okay, just omega t1 minus omega t1. Okay, so you keep your omega and you just change, you shift your function in time. Okay, so notice that we choose a cosine, but it could be a sine if it is more convenient. Okay, for example, you have cosine theta equal sine theta plus pi over 2. So if you have a sine omega t plus pi over 2, you could write it just as a cosine omega t. Okay, so I'm going to show discuss this, how to change from a cosine to a sine in the next slide. So okay, so we have this equation. We need to find xm phi, so we use usually initial conditions. So we have two unknowns, which means we need two equations. So for example, at t equals 0 we have a given position and a given speed. Okay. Alright, so let's play a little with angles and the cosine and sine functions, because in oscillations and waves you often have to work with cosine, sines, and to change from a sine to a cosine, etc. So okay, let's so this is a unit circle. You have the angle from 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and back to 2 pi. So the angle, which will be called the phase in when it is inside a function like a sine or cosine, it's periodic, and the period is 2 pi. Alright, so here there are some special angles that you should know normally. Like pi over 4, here you have the cosine is square root of 2 divided by 2, and the sine is square root of 2 divided by 2. Okay. So basically you should know for pi over 3, pi over 4, pi over 6. And of course 0, pi over 2, etc. So for example, let's take this angle. Let's call it alpha. Okay, alpha. So you see, so cosine alpha is the projection on this axis. So cosine alpha is this. Maybe I can choose another color. Okay, so this is cosine alpha. And so you see that length, I will, okay, which color? Green. That length is in fact equal to that length. Okay, from here to there, and this is, in fact, looking at that, what is it? It is a sine of this angle. I mean this angle. Huh? Okay, and this angle is compared to this one, it's pi over 2 minus alpha. Okay, so you have this cos alpha equal equal sine of pi over 2 minus alpha. So you can play with this unit circle when you want to change a cosine to a sine. Actually, you could also take this angle. Okay, if you go I can take the purple. Okay, that angle is also okay. So in that case, it would be a sine of pi over 2 plus alpha. Okay, so using just a simple thing, alpha can be anything. I just selected 30 degree, but it doesn't have to. You can select what. If you have a small angle, it's very simple to check this relationship using the unit circle. All right, so now let's find our constants in this equation. So we need to find xm and phi. So we take the example that at t equals 0, we have the speed is 0 and the position is a. So let's start with this first condition. We need the speed, so we need to take the derivative of x given by this, and then we have to say so v of 0 equals 0. So t equals 0, this term vanish, and we get this expression. So this is 0 if the sign is 0, and the sign is 0 if phi equal n pi with n equal 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So if we limit ourselves to the first period in phase space, that is, if we limit ourselves to 0 from 0 to 2 pi for phi, we have phi equals 0 or pi. All right, so two possibilities. Let's look now at the second equation. So x to 0 equal a. So this will disappear again, and we have this equation. We can extract xm, so it's a divided by cos phi. So we have cos phi here, and we have two possibilities for phi. So let's first look at phi equals 0. Therefore, cos phi equal 1 and xm equal a, and our function finally is x of t equal a cos omega t. Alright, so this is nice, but okay, let's see what happens with pi equal pi. So phi equal pi, cos phi equal minus 1, and xm equal minus a. So now it's minus a, it's not a. So do we have a problem, or is it okay? So in fact, we have to replace in this equation, so xm equal minus a, and here we have omega t plus phi. So here phi equal pi, so we also have to put a pi here. All right, so let me write here the unit circle. Okay, so this is 0, this is pi. Okay, so cosine of whatever angle. So let's say this is omega t. We can say it is alpha. Okay, so plus pi. We have omega t plus pi. This brings us here. Okay, so this is our cosine. So the cosine, let's write it in blue. So the cosine will be this. So you see that it is in fact the same as that cosine here for that same angle, for omega t. Okay, so cosine with a different sign, of course. So cosine omega t plus pi, this blue thing, is equal to minus cosine omega t, the green one. Therefore, we have minus a So this is minus a, and this will be write it here, minus cosine omega t. Therefore, we do get a cosine omega t, even in this case. Alright, so we can summarize what we have found and generalize this. This is a definition of simple harmonic motion. So any motion that repeats itself is periodic, so this is easy to understand, or harmonic. If the motion is sinusoidal, a function of time, it is called simple harmonic motion. Okay, so this is a definition. So if the physics problem leads to this equation, you know you have a simple harmonic motion, and you know the solution is this. So on the contrary, if you know you have a simple harmonic motion, so you know your function would be given by something like that, and you can calculate your speed would be given by that, your acceleration given by this, which means that the equation of motion obeys this, is this equation. Okay. Let's look at some examples now. Let's start with the physical pendulum here. So this is a piece of material that is fixed at a point O and is free to rotate about that axis O. So here the restoring force is gravity acting on this, let's say the center of mass is here, and the inertia is a momentum of inertia. Okay, because this is a rotational motion. So we have to apply Newton's law for rotation. So the second law for rotation is so the equivalent of F equal ma is torque equal I alpha. So alpha is the angular acceleration, and I0 is the moment of inertia with respect to that axis of rotation. So what is tau 0? It is so it is the torque. So the torque can be expressed as the force. You have to take, so you have different ways of calculating the torque, but one way is to take the component of the force, so the force is mg here, the component that is perpendicular to the distance of the point to the axis of rotation. So this is L, so it would be just to be this by L. Okay. So minus mg sine theta, this multiplied by L. We put a minus. This depends on your selection of your convention for rotation. Usually clockwise motion is taken negative for the torques. Okay, so actually this will decide the sign of your angular acceleration. Alright. So theta is an algebraic variable here, and so alpha is just the second derivative of theta. Right. So you can rewrite this like that. So does it look like a simple harmonic motion? It would if this were a theta. Yeah, so what can we do? We can look at small angles. So for small theta, sine theta is about like theta. So if we restrict ourselves to small angles, then we can write the equation like that, and this is the equation of a simple harmonic motion. And we have the the frequency of our system is square root of mgl divided by a0. So again, this is due to the restoring force. So you have mg inside and L because of the torque, and the moment of inertia representing the inertia of the system. We can look at a very much more simple pendulum. It's just a mass at a distance L from the axis of rotation. So restoring force is again gravity, inertia is the moment of inertia again. So we can do exactly the same process as before and get this equation of motion. So here's the only difference with the previous slide is the moment of inertia. So in this case, it's just one mass point here, so it's just m by L squared. Okay, this small l is in fact the same as a capital L here. All right. So in the previous slide we had this for a general pendulum. Here, if you replace I0 by ml squared, so again, it's not case sensitive. This is the slide. The small l is the same as a capital L. So you will get only this left. So G is in fact the signature of gravity, and L here is a signature of the moment of inertia. Alright, so here let's see the relationship that varies between simple harmonic motion and uniform circular motion. So we consider a real piece of material here, this dot, red dot, and it is experiencing a uniform circular motion. And it is illuminated by lights here, and we are looking in fact at the shadow of that dot on this line. Alright, so this is a situation as t equals 0, so let's say it is here, and at a given time t, so omega is rotating at a fixed angular speed. Right, so omega is fixed, is constant, so it's omega equal omega t. No, theta equal omega t, sorry. And that distance is a. Okay, so what so we follow the shadow, so the shadow will oscillate, in fact, between minus a and plus a. And it will follow, actually the position of the shadow on the x-axis will be the position of the cosine of theta multiplied by a, because it will be just this length, and this length is a cosine theta. So x of t in this axis is xm, so a in this case, cosine theta of t, and theta of t is omega t in this particular case, but in general you may have the phi plus phi. Alright, so in fact this is a simple harmonic motion, and so the same as for a mass oscillating like that. So the important thing here to know is that theta of t here is called the phase. Okay, so it's omega t plus phi, or 2 pi t divided by the period, by the definition of omega, plus phi. Okay. So this is the phase. It's an angle. All right. So just a physical, philosophical comment here. What you observe, in fact, is an oscillation in one dimension. But the real physical motion is something that is a rotational motion in 2 dimensions. So be careful when you observe something. So if you observe that, it doesn't mean that you really have something oscillating. in a straight line. You may have something in another dimension, a motion in another dimension as well. This slide continues on this relationship between SHM and uniform circular motion. We won't really need that for waves, but okay, it's just interesting to look at this. So in this case, you have x equal xm omega t for this piece, this red dot moving in circular motion. The speed will be dx dt. And so x is this. So x, according to this, will be minus xm omega. And in fact, you can check that indeed it is the horizontal component of the speed here. So you can check that this angle theta is also this one. Okay, for the acceleration, you take the derivative of the speed, and you get this, and you find minus omega squared a, which also corresponds to the horizontal acceleration of yes. This is in fact the equation of the motion, because this is the second derivative of x equal that. So you could write this as a second derivative of x plus omega squared x equals 0. So this is the equation of the motion for a simple harmonic motion. So now we are going to discuss in more detail the properties of the cosine function. So this is our equation. So theta here is the phase, so it is omega t plus phi. It can be written like this because this is the period of the motion. So it's the phase, A is the amplitude. So phi, what is phi is usually called the phase shift, sometimes called the phase constant or phase angle. So most of the time it will be the phase shift, because it shifts, in fact, the angle. So t appears only here, and this is a kind of constant shift in the phase. So remember that one period in the phase is 2 pi radian. Okay. So period in time domain is t in seconds, so periodicity in time, and this is a periodicity in phase. So whenever the time is changing by t, your phase will change by 2 pi. A full cycle in both domains. Okay. And this is okay, just illustrating that periodicity in time. Also we define, so the omega is called the angular frequency, radian per second. Okay, period t is in second, and also the frequency per second or hertz. So we are going to play with all of these in this course and in the problems. And this will be extremely useful. You should know that already. Omega equal to 2 pi over t. So it's easy to remember because it's this is a kind of this is a full cycle in phase space, so 2 pi radian, divided by a full cycle in time domain, which is t seconds. So it is on radian per second. Okay. And because f equal 1 over t, you can write it like this. Alright, so phase shift will appear many times in problems, even in waves. So let's get familiar with this. Here is represented in blue this function x1. So it is maximum at t equals 0, cosine equals 0, equal 1. Let's look at function x2. So it is shifted. It is the same cosine function, but it is shifted to the right in time space. So we can write it this way. We can also write it in this way by introducing delta t, that is the difference actually between, let's say, if you focus on this minima, it is the difference between this minima and this minima. It is a shift in time of these two, of function x2 compared to function x1. So this is in fact a result in mathematics. When you have a function, and if you take the same function but centered at a different point, that new function is just the original function, and using the variable minus that position of the new center. Alright, so now our center, let's say it is the maximum here, correspond to the cosine equals 0. Now that new center correspond to time delta t. Okay, the shift in delta t. So now we need to replace t by t minus delta t. Okay, this is just mathematics. All right, so here we can say that x2, so for the vocabulary, we can say that x2 is phase retarded with respect to x1. So in this particular case, the phase is minus pi over 4. Or we can also we also say that x2 reached its maximum after x1. So that's why it is retarded. Okay, the maximum was reached after x1, so it is retarded. Okay, so here, okay, this comes from mathematics. The fact that you have to add, in fact, a minus, so phi is negative, it's minus pi over 4. So in fact, when you have a shift of your function to the right, you must add a negative phase shift. Okay. And on the contrary, when the curve is translated to the left with respect to the reference, which is x1 now, your phi must be positive. So one way to see that, why it is negative, is that if you start from x2, actually, if you want to match x1, you have to shift by a negative amount, delta t, to match the blue curve. Alright, so you in problems, for example, they may give you phi, like here, and they might ask you what is delta t. So you can find it actually quite easily with this, the fact that phi equals minus omega delta t. So we are going to see a more general way to see that. So let's see how a shift in the phase domain, so a shift of the phase, is related to a shift in the time domain. So how delta t is related to phi. Okay, so this is it. So phi here is equal to omega delta t. Of course, we don't know yet the sign. And here 2 pi is omega t. So this is a full cycle in phase, full period in phase domain, equal omega t. T is a full period in a time domain. And this is just a partial, so when you have just a delta t here instead of a full cycle, so it's a portion of cycle, you will have only a change of phase, a small change of phase compared to a full cycle here. So you can take the ratio, you can eliminate omega between these two equations, and you get this. and this answers all these questions. So if your problem give you phi and they ask you delta t, this will answer the question. If they give you delta t, they ask for phi, it also answers the question. Okay, so a comment here. You see that this equation makes really a lot of sense, because on this side you have both represent a ratio of a full cycle. Phi is an angle, arbitrary angle, divided by a full cycle in the phase domain. Delta t is a shift, it's just a difference of time, arbitrary, divided by a full period in time domain. Okay, so it makes sense that the ratios are identical. And we will expand this in the space domain when we will deal with waves. Okay. Let us practice phase shift determination. Let's take the problem 15.8 from your book, which is this. So the question is, for what is the phase constant phi for the harmonic oscillator with the position function x of t given in the figure here, if the position function has the form this one. So this is a typical form, and they give you the value of xs here. Alright, so already looking at the figure, they give you xs, therefore you know the amplitude. And they give you actually this give you many values as a function of time. For a given time, you have different values. So you have a lot of information. Alright, so just a comment here. Phi equals 0 would mean the maximum of that function would be at t equals 0 here. So your max would be here if phi would be equal to 0. So phi is a phase shift with respect to a curve having its max at t equals 0. Alright, so how we do this? First notice that the only thing that is asked is phi. So looking at this equation, xm will be given because we know xs. So this is known. Omega, do we know omega? We don't know omega. So that's a problem. And we don't know phi. So in principle, we would need two equations to solve this problem, because we need to find omega maybe and phi, but okay, there is an easy way to get rid of omega and directly have an equation giving you phi, because for any t you know your x from this equation. So if you take t equals 0, this will disappear, you don't need to know omega, and you will have an equation. Okay, so t equals 0, x equal this number, which is 1/3 of the maximum. So 1/3 of the maximum negative is -2. Xs, so yeah, xs and minus xs. So xs is equal to xm, in fact, here. Okay, so we have this equation, so we can easily solve for phi. So now is coming the problem that you have to be very careful about. So you have cosine phi equal -1/3. So what? So of course you use your calculator, your best friend, and your calculator will give you 1.91 radian, and you are happy, and you write this answer, and you move on. But in fact, you have to be very careful, because if you remember your mathematics lectures, I will draw here the unit circle. So -1/3. So you divide this by third, so minus 1/3 is this. Okay, I change column. This is your minus 1/3 cosine. There are two solutions for the angle. There is this one and this one. So this is the first solution, and so let's say that one. Sorry, I'm drawing with the mouse and it's difficult. So you have basically two solutions. Okay. And your calculators actually gives you only one. So your calculator is taught to give you one solution in between. So for a cosine, so the cosine varies from +1 to -1. So your cosine will give you a solution within 0 to pi. 0 to pi. Okay. For a sine function, it will give you a solution from -π/2 to π/2. Okay, but just one solution. So, okay. So here the thing is, we have to decide which one is the right one. Is it this one or is it this one? So we are going to see how we can differentiate between these two solutions. Yeah, because okay, the calculator can be wrong. All right, so yes, cos phi equal -1/3 has two roots. So we call it, the first one is called phi plus, so it's 1.91 radian, and the other one is phi 0 equal to 4.37 radian. So remember, 1/3 is roughly here. So this one is phi plus, and this one is what we call phi 0. So what is this phi minus? It's the same. Huh? So indeed, so phi plus is this, but you can also, so this is a negative, so you can also go from here and go all the way around, and this is phi minus. So it's the same angle, just taken the other way around. So you have either phi plus or phi 0. Phi 0 being just this one. Oh, okay. So how to find the right one? Okay, so now you have to use your brain, maybe. So what we have two solutions. So we have to find something that differentiate these two solutions. And one thing that is different is their sign. The sign of phi plus is positive, and the okay, orange. The sign of phi 0 is this one negative. So the amplitude are the same, but one is positive, one is negative. So if we have an expression of the sign, we can differentiate. Okay, and we can do that, just that, using the speed. Okay, sine phi plus is positive, sine phi 0 is negative. We need to find an expression of sine phi. And we know that sine appears in the speed. When you take the derivative of x, then you get the velocity, this expression, and you have a sine. So you just have to look at the sign of the sine at t equal 0. Okay, so from the graph, you can check that the velocity, so the speed at 0 is negative. So this gives you, because there is already a minus here, this means that sine of phi is positive. Okay, sine phi positive, it is the green one, this one, therefore the solution is phi plus. Or minus if you want to take it negative. Okay, so what actually now is the difference between these two, phi plus and or phi minus? So obviously phi plus in absolute value is smaller than phi minus. So if you take phi equal phi plus, it means that the curve is a bit early with respect to the curve having its max at t equals 0. Okay. If you take phi minus, so you will get minus 4.37 radian. This, remember, a negative phase shift means a shift of your curve to the right. So this means that the curve is very late with respect to the curve having its max at t equals 0 in this case. You may check that the delta t is very small in this case and is large in this case. So because when a curve is shifted compared to another one, you can always have the choice. Either it means it is a little bit late or early compared to the other one, or very much late or early compared to the reference one. Okay. So usually we take the smallest number, but it may depend on the problem. Alright, so in this case, actually, your calculator was right, but by mistake. Eh? It could have been the other one. Okay, so be careful. There is a high chance that in an exam, for example, you would have to find the other one. So here we have finished with mechanical oscillators. So let's see. Let's take some time to look at the importance of simple harmonic motion. It can be used to set the time. So you've probably heard of crystal oscillators like quartz, for example, for clocks. It can be used also for microbalances. So microbalances are used in chemistry. When you deposit some material using chemical deposition or electrochemical deposition, you have to measure extremely small amounts, small masses. Okay, so you can use some special crystal oscillators. So when you deposit material, the mass will change a little bit, and you can see that you can see a change in the frequency, and you can, using this, measure the mass deposited. Pendulum-based clocks, the old kind. One important thing is Fourier series. So any periodic function can be expressed as a sum of cosines and sines. So this is known as the Fourier theorem. So Fourier series. It has been extended to Fourier transform to be used for any kind of function, not only periodic functions. So this is linked to the superposition principle. So this is very important. It is used anywhere, everywhere in physics. So you will see, if not already, you will see that at least next year. It has a meaning in quantum mechanics. There is a quantum mechanical oscillator, which is one of the few exactly solvable problems in quantum mechanics. And we can use also quantum oscillators are often used as approximations of more complicated quantum systems. So you probably know in chemistry the potential energy of let's say a molecule. So usually it is something represented like that. It's a Morse potential. So so this is your potential energy. This would be your position, and this is your energy, and this is position R. Okay, and this is, of course, the equilibrium position between two atoms will be at the minimum. So this is a generally complicated function, but close to the minimum here, so close to the equilibrium position, you can approximate that to a parabola. That is something looking like half of k x squared, which is the potential energy of an harmonic oscillator. Okay, so you can pretend that close to the equilibrium position you have an harmonic oscillator. And so for us this is very important. Oscillators are used to generate waves. So we will see that in the next lecture. Let's now look at electromagnetic oscillations. So how to build an electromagnetic oscillator? So you have seen probably in FP3 different elements, electrical elements, like a generator or EMF, resistance represented by R, or capacitor with properties C, which is a capacitance, and an inductance L. So which one to choose and how to put them together in order to have an electromagnetic oscillator. So physically, let's look, we need a restoring force and inertia. That's all we need. So where can we find this in these elements? So let's look at the first one, a generator. So this in fact is a source of energy. It's a power, so it constantly supplies energy at a given power. So this would be a driven oscillator. If you put that in a circuit, you would have driven oscillation. It will consistently always supply energy to the system. So it's not what we want. We want something where the energy is constant. So we don't want to constantly add energy to the system. So we don't want a generator. Resistance R. So what is that? So you probably know that the power of a resistance is Ri squared. So the so-called Joule effect. So it becomes hot when you when you run a current through it. So in fact it is converting electrical energy into heat. So it drains energy from the system. This corresponds to damping in mechanical oscillator. So we don't want that because again we want a nice simple oscillator with constant energy. So we don't want a drain to lose energy in our system, no damping. So we don't want that. Okay, already we have two left, so that should do it. We should have something that produces a restoring force and another thing that represents inertia. So let's look at the capacitor. So as you know, capacitor stores energy. It's an easy way to store energy, electrical energy. And at some point you can release it. So it looks like a spring. A spring can store mechanical energy when it is compressed, for example, and when you release it, it will stretch out and release that energy. So what is the equivalent of the force? So here in fact for the spring you have F equal minus K delta X. For a capacitor, the voltage across a capacitor is represented as delta Q. So Q is the charge accumulated on each face divided by the capacitance. So this looks quite similar. Okay, you have the thing that changes for the spring is the position of the spring, of the block. So it's delta X. Here what changes is the charge that you can put on each face. And then you have something that is a property of the spring, K, and here you have C, that is a property of your capacitance. So indeed this is very similar. So in fact V is directly associated to an electrical force. Okay, because the force the force in electricity is you can represent it as F equal QE. QE. So the force is just a Q away from being an electric field, and then a D away from being a voltage. Okay. Okay. So basically, because the electric field is just a volt per meter, so if you choose 1 meter, then this is a voltage also. All right. So voltage is associated to an electric to a force, an electrical force. So, and then we have the good analogy between voltage, force, and so delta Q, delta X, and the property K, and 1 divided by C. Okay, so in our case, the springiness of the system is 1 over C. So what about the inductance? So it has to be inertia. So indeed, if you remember again FP3, the inductance, this is the Lenz's law, tends to oppose a change of magnetic flux in it. Okay, so a resistance to change is the definition of inertia. All right, so the inductance will bring the inertia to the system. So again, we can look at an analogy between mechanical oscillator and electrical oscillator. So for the mechanical one, we have F equal ma, written like that, where m was the inertia. So now we can look at the voltage across an inductance. So it is L di dt, the I is the current, I is also the derivative of Q divided by dt, so you can write it like this. So now you see again the analogy force, voltage, and X and Q. So in this case, you have that L is the inertia for an electrical system. So we need only to couple together a capacitor and an inductance to have a simple oscillator, electrical oscillator. Okay, let's look how they oscillate. So we have put an inductance here and a capacitor here. So if we start with a fully charged capacitor and no current, so this is the equivalent of a mass spring system where the mass is not moving, so speed equals 0, but the spring is fully stretched. So energy is all inside the spring, and here all inside the capacitor. So you have maximum Q in the capacitor and 0 current. Here you would have, this corresponds to Q equals 0, so all the charges flow through the circuit. And here the current, so Q is 0, and the current in absolute value is maximum. So this is the equivalent of your mass spring system when it is in the equilibrium position, when the spring is not stretched, so no energy in the spring, and all the energy is in the kinetic energy. Okay, and so on. Then all the energy will be again in the capacitor with no kinetic energy, and so on. So here you have, so at this position you have all the energy is in the capacitor, so you can write it like this. And here all the energy, and also here all the energy is in the inductance, and therefore given by this. So let's try to guess what omega should be and the equation from what we know about simple harmonic motion. So first of all, we know so Q will change, will oscillate. So you can write it like this. This is the equation of a simple harmonic oscillator. So it should obey this kind of equation. Can you predict omega? Well, if you know what is your springiness and what is your inertia, you should. So you've seen using the equations before that inertia was L and the springiness was 1 divided by C. So using this, you get this for your frequency. So I use frequency also for omega. It is typical in the field to just instead of saying angular speed or something like that, you can just call that the frequency. And what is the equation? So it has to be this kind and this kind. Okay, because this is a typical. So the second derivative of your of what is changing plus omega squared, what is changing equals 0. So you can find that without even thinking very much about doing some math. But we are going to do this math just after. So let's derive these functions using mathematics. So first of all, the voltage between A and B is so across the capacitance it is Q over C, and across your inductance is minus the induced EMF, which is minus E in this case. If we choose it like this with a current going in this way, we have L di dt. Okay, so this is the same as just using a Kirchhoff's loop rule, which gives you this equation. So now we have to we have Q here and I here, so we have to get rid of I actually. So I is minus dq dt. So in our convention we use the positive current is supposed to run in this way. So in order to have that, we need to put a minus here, because when Q is decreasing here, the current is going this way. So Q is decreasing means dq dt negative. Therefore we need to put a minus to get a positive current. Okay. So this is an important step, this sign. So that when you replace this in this sign will disappear and you get a plus here, and indeed what we expected. So we have therefore Q obey this equation, and we have this for the frequency. Alright, so this is all we need for waves. So we do not cover damping and driven oscillations and resonance. You're supposed to have seen that in your course on oscillators. This is just what we need for waves. Okay. So this is a formula summary of what you need to know and understand from this lecture. So the condition for oscillation, so restoring force, inertia, also so simple harmonic motion for variable x, so this function, the equation of motion, the frequency omega as a function of t or f, omega springiness divided by inertia. For a spring you have this omega, and the energy is this, and for an LC circuit you have this omega. And this is an important relation between the phase shift and the shift in time. So this relates in fact the phase domain and the time domain. So when we will move to waves will also oscillate in space, and we will have to add the space domain, position domain here.